All right, I want to welcome everyone to our live Saturday morning presentation. We're going to be looking at vitamin D today and the importance of vitamin D. Some of this information I've shared in the past, so that information I'm going to speed through, but I want to present some new information, especially information as it relates to vitamin D deficiencies and the need of vitamin D in relationship to the COVID-19 virus. And so let's just go ahead and get started. And if you have questions, certainly unmute yourself and ask, or we'll have time for questions at the end. Everyone should be able to see my screen. And we're going to be looking at vitamin D as it relates to both your cardiovascular system as well as your immune system. And I just want to briefly give a little background. If you're going to do supplementation and you go to a health food store, you'll find that vitamin D comes in one of two forms. It either comes in vitamin D2, which is from plants, or it's vitamin D3, which comes from animal sourcing. Now, if you're going to use a vitamin D supplement, vitamin D2 doesn't work very well because it's very difficult for your body to convert vitamin D2 into the final form of vitamin D that's necessary. So vitamin D3 is always the best choice. I know that there's vegans out there and vegetarians, but mainly vegans who don't want to touch anything that has to do with animals. But understand the process. It's just like you have a cat at home or a dog at home, and you take care of them and you nurture them and you make sure that they're healthy animals. Well, the same thing with vitamin D3 supplementation. You're talking sheep, responsibly raised, and then as the sheep grow their wool, if you're going to be responsible, you're going to give them a haircut, basically. And so you take the wool, the lanolin that's in the wool, and the lanolin is washed out of the wool, and then the lanolin goes through a chemical process that then creates the vitamin D3 in the supplement. So in effect, you're not eating any animals, and you're treating those animals responsibly, and you're using a byproduct of those animals to help give you a form of vitamin D that is very effective in being able to be converted in your body. Now, again, I've got videos. I'll show you where all this stuff is sourced on the Our Synergy Family website. But basically, what happens is a lot of people think that they need sunlight to get their vitamin D. And although sunlight is important, the research has shown that even for people in California, where the sun shines a lot, they're still vitamin D deficient. Part of the reason why is in today's society, we use sunscreen to protect us from the UV rays. We wear a hat, and so people really don't get exposure to the sun like they did in the past. And you need to understand that for people who are of darker skin color, the darker the skin, the less the light penetration. So people who are in the Hispanic community, people who are in the Black community, they're going to have less sun penetration. So you really can't begin to do this process through the sun of activating the process in your bloodstream of creating vitamin D3. So as you can see on this slide, vitamin D3 gets into the bloodstream. From that bloodstream, it goes to the liver. The liver converts it to another form of vitamin D. And then final form of vitamin D that is actually used by your body goes through the kidney. So liver function and kidney function are extremely important. So when you go back to this whole process, you can even start with the microbiome. The better your gut health, the better your body's going to have the ability to absorb vitamin D3 into the bloodstream. And then good liver health will convert that vitamin D3 into the next form of vitamin D. And then your kidneys, good kidney function, then ends up improving or changing that final vitamin D into its final form that the body can use, that we call vitamin D. And when we look at nitric oxide therapy, what does nitric oxide therapy help do? It helps to improve circulation. It helps to improve endothelial health and function, which is where all this stuff is going across the cell membrane. So from going from the small intestine absorption into the bloodstream, The better your endothelial function, the better the absorption of those nutrients into the bloodstream. When the nutrients are taken to the liver, again, the better your endothelial function, the better the ability to get that vitamin D3 out of the bloodstream into the liver to be converted, goes back into the bloodstream, travels to the kidney, and then again in the kidney, it's transferred to its final form. And again, nitric oxide therapy improves blood flow, improves organ function because it gives a better supply of blood to the organs. And when you're looking at the kidneys, nitric oxide therapy makes a huge difference in kidney function. So I say all this stuff to help us understand that vitamin D supplementation is for most people, is a more effective way for them to boost their vitamin D levels in their bloodstream than going through the process of trying to get enough sunlight. Now, just so we can have some parameters here, normal vitamin D levels would be for when people have 30 nanograms per milliliter or higher. Insufficient would be if your vitamin D levels test out to be between 21 and 29 nanograms per milliliter, and you're considered deficient if you're 20 nanograms per milliliter or less. Now, I can't find a study more current than this one, but in 2011, there was a big study done in the US that found that 42% of the adults are vitamin D deficient, meaning that they have 20 nanograms per milliliter or less of vitamin D in their bloodstream. However, when they broke it out based on ethnicity, what they found was that 69% of Hispanics were vitamin D deficient and 82% of African Americans were vitamin D deficient, which again goes back up to this process here where people think that all they need is sunlight. Again, the darker the skin, the less the light penetration, so you can't use the light, the UV light, to activate this process of creating vitamin D in the bloodstream. So it's extremely important for Hispanics and African Americans to take a vitamin D supplementation program to help them increase their vitamin D levels. And I know there's been a lot of research in the last 2.5 years with regards to the COVID-19 virus and how it has significantly impacted ethnic communities, where a higher percentage of Hispanics and a higher percentage of Black people have had issues with the COVID-19 virus. When you look at the stuff that's out there, most of it has to do with economic situations. In reality, if you look at the research, it has most likely more to do with their vitamin D levels than anything else. So from a health initiative standpoint, which is really what I want to try and get across in today's presentation, that vitamin D is a real health initiative that we could begin to present to people through our social media platforms on how important vitamin D is to their overall health, especially their immune system, especially in the COVID-19 pandemic and the continuing moving forward to be able to address some of these things. Now, coming back down here, again, vitamin D in your immune system. So vitamin D plays a really important role in your immune system. And I'm going to come back to this. What I want to do now is I want to transition to information that I was able to find online to help you understand vaccine effectiveness, because I want to then come back to looking at the effectiveness of vitamin D as it relates to the COVID-19 virus. Now, here is a chart that I pulled. I'll make this available on Tuesday. Here's the actual link where this chart comes from. And as you can see, it's COVID-19 vaccine efficiency summary. If you look at that here in the United States, this chart gives all the vaccines that have been created worldwide. But here in the United States, I've got highlighted in yellow the 4 major vaccines that are used here in the United States. And when we look at this chart, we're looking at the different variations of the COVID-19. So when we look at the ancestral, which is the original form, which morphed to the alpha variant, which then morphed to the beta variant, to the gamma, the Delta and the Omicron, you can see that in the beginning, with regards to infection, you're looking at a 94%, 86%, 97%, and 95% effective, meaning that the vaccines that were originally created to deal with the alpha variant of this COVID-19 virus were extremely effective in helping people or helping to prevent people from getting the COVID-19 virus. That ranged from anywhere from a low of 86% J&J, Johnson & Johnson, to a high of 97%. However, when you look at the Omicron variant, you can see that the effectiveness rates have dropped dramatically. 36%, 33%, 48%, and 44%, which means that none of the current COVID-19 vaccines, none of them are greater than 50% effective in helping to prevent you from getting COVID-19. Some of them are a third of what they used to be. So again, as the COVID-19 virus has mutated, the effectiveness of the vaccines have not maintained their same level of effectiveness. Now, I'm not here telling people not to get vaccinated. That's not the purpose of today's presentation. The purpose of today's presentation is to help people understand how critically important vitamin D is to their overall health, especially their immune system, and especially their immune system in relationship to the COVID-19 virus. So whether you've been vaccinated or whether you've chosen not to get vaccinated, either way, your vitamin D level in your bloodstream is extremely important to know, because if you are not in the normal range, if you are insufficient or deficient, then you are at risk, at a higher risk for getting COVID-19 than people who do have normal vitamin D levels. So again, whether you're vaccinated or whether you've chosen not to get vaccinated, you still need to know what your vitamin D levels are, because it has an extremely important role in boosting your immune system to be able to help you. Now, I pulled current information. This information is within the last year, 2021 to today. This is current information. This is all pulled from PubMed. So these are actual articles that are in the government database. So I'm not giving people information based upon what is hearsay. I'm giving you information based upon scientific studies and looking at studies in this area as it relates to vitamin D and COVID-19. So here is the one article. Again, I'll provide this PDF so that you have the link to it. I've taken the abstract and I've highlighted in yellow the part that I want to address. Amid this search, the role of vitamin D in modulating various aspects of the innate and adaptive immune system has been discussed. This review aims to consolidate the research surrounding the role of vitamin D in the treatment and prevention of COVID-19. While there are some conflicting results reported, the consensus is that vitamin D has a host of immunomodulatory effects which may be beneficial in the context of COVID-19, and that low levels of vitamin D can result in dysfunction of critical antimicrobial effects, potentially contributing to poor prognosis. Now, this article continues down with a lot of information, and then they had this chart, and I've taken a screenshot of the chart. I thought it was extremely helpful. As you can see, most of the problems with COVID-19 has to do with lung function. And so when you look at lung function, one of the things that we talked about in the past with regards to nitric oxide therapy and some of the properties of nitric oxide in helping to prevent clotting from occurring in the bloodstream, well, science knows now that the COVID-19 virus directly damages the lining of the vascular system, what's called the endothelium. One of the functions of your endothelium is clotting, which means that if you cut yourself or you skin your knee and you start to bleed, if it wasn't for your endothelium creating a chemical called the von Willebrand factor or factor 8, you would bleed to death. Even from a simple cut, you would bleed out if it wasn't for that factor. The endothelium produces that factor when needed. So if it's not needed, it doesn't produce it. What happens in the lung area is the COVID-19 virus damages the endothelium and its regulatory ability, especially in its ability to regulate the release of factor 8 or the von Willebrand factor, which begins to cause small clots in the lung area. And as the virus increases, it then increases this damage to the endothelium, causing greater and greater clotting that occurs in the lung area. And typically that's what ends up resulting in death. So as you can see from this chart, as you have vitamin D sufficiency, it helps to provide a protective aspect to this whole process of helping to maintain good lung function. And that when vitamin D deficiency is there, where you're lacking in vitamin D, that helps to contribute to dysfunction in the lung area because it doesn't have the counterbalancing effect of what vitamin D can do with regards to the immune system and helping to modulate this whole process. Going down further in their conclusion, in summary, current evidence supports the links between vitamin D and COVID-19 and the benefits of vitamin D supplementation for managing or treating this condition. Most of the literature reports improve COVID-19 prognosis and outcomes with sufficient vitamin D concentrations with or without supplementation. So again, a person could have normal vitamin D levels without supplementation, and they can also have normal vitamin D levels because they are supplementing. So what they're saying in that conclusion is that people who have sufficient vitamin D concentrations are less likely to see problems from the COVID-19 virus. Now, I also pulled this study, which is really important because it gives you a quantitative number with regards to how effective vitamin D is in helping to reduce the probability of you getting COVID-19. So the title of this is The Impact of Vitamin D Level on COVID-19 Infections, a systemic review and meta-analysis. So what they did is they reviewed all the current studies that have been done that have been done looking at COVID-19 and vitamin D. They removed any studies where the study was attached to a supplement manufacturer or a company that produced a vitamin D supplement or a vitamin D prescription. So they only looked at those studies that were out there that didn't have an attachment to a potential conflict of interest. And so what they found is in the pooled analysis showed that individuals with vitamin D deficiency were 80% more likely to acquire COVID-19 infection as compared to those who have sufficient vitamin D levels. So what that's saying is, given all the studies that are out there that have looked at this issue of vitamin D and COVID-19, that for people who had normal vitamin D levels versus people who have insufficient levels of vitamin D, that those individuals who had normal vitamin D levels were 80% less likely to acquire COVID-19 infection. So when we come back to looking at the current vaccines and their effectiveness, you can see that normal vitamin D levels are as effective or more effective in preventing you from getting COVID-19 than the current vaccines. Again, I'm not here to tell you not to get vaccinated, and I'm not here to tell you to get vaccinated. What I'm here to do is give you the information so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And what I am saying is, irregardless of whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you need to know what your vitamin D levels are. And if you are insufficient or deficient, then you need to go on some type of vitamin D supplementation program to get your vitamin D levels up into the normal range. Now, before I go back to my main article, I want to come down here. So in conclusion, low serum 25 vitamin D level was significantly associated with a higher risk of COVID-19 infections. And I talked about the immune system. When we look at the immune system, there are two parts to your immune system. There's what's called the innate immune system, and then there's called the adaptive immune system. So the innate immune system takes care of things that have been in the environment for a long period of time. So that when you get an infection that has been in the environment for a long period of time, your immune system already innately knows what that infection or that virus is and can begin to mobilize itself immediately to be able to address that infection or that virus. The adaptive immune system is when something new occurs. And when it's new, the body doesn't necessarily recognize it immediately. But once it recognizes it, then it goes into the adaptive immune system to create the necessary antibodies to be able to then counteract that infection or new virus that it's coming up against. So once you've done that, once your immune system has done that, then it has that stored information so that if it meets up with that same type of virus again, then it can quickly ramp up its immune system to be able to handle that. So here's the importance of vitamin D as it relates to your immune system. Vitamin D improves the communication process within each system and between each system. That's the importance of vitamin D. What that means is if you ever want to really do a study in this area, it's absolutely amazing the amount of chatter or talk that happens between the different parts of your immune system. There are signaling molecules. There are things that go back and forth to be able to tell your immune system what's good, what's bad, what to attack, what not to attack, all that other stuff that goes on. The way that viruses work is they confuse the communication process within the immune system so that the virus is not recognized as bad rather than good, and sometimes sends out signals that cause good things to look bad so that it protects itself. Well, what vitamin D does is it improves the communication process within each system so that it doesn't get fooled. And then it also improves the communication process between the two systems so that when the innate immune system comes up against something new, rather than taking the time, sometimes where the time becomes too late for the immune system to recognize what's going on, you improve that communication process so immediately the adaptive immune system can go into play, produce the necessary antibodies to be able to control the virus or the infection that is new to the system that it's never seen before. So that's the importance of vitamin D, improving the communication process within the immune system and both sections of the immune system as well as between the immune system. Now, what originally turned me on to this importance of vitamin D was a study that came out of Indonesia. It's very hard to find this study anymore because they took a pounding from the media, as well as they took a pounding from this was in the first beginning of COVID-19. So people just didn't believe this information. Plus, it's an observational study. So there's, an observational study, all they're doing is observing what happened and then reporting what happened. So you can see that it's only 780 cases. They were pretty much split evenly between people who had normal vitamin D levels and people who had insufficient and deficient. So because it's a small case study and because of the types of results that they showed, it wasn't really accepted by the medical community, especially in the beginning. Now, as you can see, this to me was an eye-opening study. If you look at people who had normal vitamin D levels, all of these patients contracted COVID-19. For people who had normal vitamin D levels, their death rate was 4%, meaning that 4 people out of 100 would die from the COVID-19 virus, even if they had normal vitamin D levels. However, when you look at insufficient and deficient, you can see a huge increase in death rate. For those people who were insufficient in their vitamin D levels, their death rate was 88%, 88 people out of 100. For people who were deficient in vitamin D, it was basically a death warrant. 99%, 99 out of 100 people would die. So if you were deficient in this small observational study, if you were deficient in vitamin D levels, basically it was a death warrant. If you were insufficient, you had a small chance. If you had normal vitamin D levels, you had a great probability that you would be able to survive the COVID-19 virus. Didn't mean that everyone did, but your probability was pretty good. Now, there's plenty of other studies that you can find out there with regards to this. These are studies that I've shown in the past. These were done in 2000 and late 2000. So again, I have this on our Synergy Family website where you can go to. You can find this documentation that I'm showing you here today. And again, in 2020, there was experts in this area began this process of helping governments throughout the world understand how important it is to look at the vitamin D levels within their population bases. And for those people who are insufficient or deficient, they needed to do some type of program to get those vitamin D levels up for individuals. Now, with regards to your cardiovascular health, there's 2 main aspects that vitamin D does to improve cardiovascular health. One is improving endothelial function. We've done plenty of Saturday morning presentations on nitric oxide therapy, and we are firm believers that the endothelial pathway for the creation of nitric oxide is the most powerful and most beneficial pathway for creating nitric oxide. So anything that you can do to improve endothelial function ends up helping to improve the ability of the endothelium, when properly nourished with the right ingredients, to create nitric oxide. So vitamin D helps to improve endothelial function. Plus, it also reduces arterial stiffness. So we've talked about this in the past. Vitamin D with vitamin K, that helps to regulate calcium levels in your bloodstream. That has 2 important aspects to it. First, the enzymes of the endothelium that are used to create nitric oxide are called calcium-dependent enzymes, meaning that if calcium is properly there, those enzymes can function properly and convert L-arginine to nitric oxide. If they're lacking calcium, then even though the L-arginine might be in sufficient quantities, the enzyme can't function properly, so you get little nitric oxide production. So this association between vitamin D and vitamin K2, so vitamin D3, vitamin K2, helps to regulate calcium levels in your bloodstream so that the enzymes of the endothelium function properly, as well as it keeps calcium in your bones so that it doesn't end up hardening the soft tissues within your body, such as your arteries. So that's where you see this reducing arterial stiffness. Now, I'm going to leave the rest of this here for you to find here. We'll go to it now. If you go to our Synergy Family website, everything always starts on the home page. If you click down to Immune Health, you'll open up to this page here. Most of the information here on the Immune Health has to do with the immune booster, but vitamin D helps to improve the immune system. So if you scroll down, you will find vitamin D deficiency. This video here will help you understand a lot of the information I just shared with you, as well as you have a webinar that we did, you can see well over a year ago on this. And here's a PDF that you can click on and gives you basically the same information that I'm sharing with you today on this one PDF that I'm showing you here right now. These other two PDFs I will make available as links into Tuesday's newsletter, as well as I'll add these to this page on our Synergy family so that you can, again, have all this information at your fingertips. So why do I bring all this stuff up? Well, we've talked in the past about doing social media campaigns to help you improve your Synergy business. And we talked about if you're going to do a social media campaign, don't do it about a product, do it rather about an issue where you talk about nitric oxide therapy and you create through nitric oxide therapy the interest for a person to look at that for dealing with their high blood pressure or dealing with their diabetic complications or dealing with their erectile dysfunction. Well, you can do the same thing with regards to the importance of vitamin D. You can help people understand the importance of vitamin D with regards to their immune system, or you can help them understand how effective vitamin D, normal vitamin D levels are in reducing your probability of getting COVID-19. Now, understand that whatever you do, you need to make sure that you back up with science. All right. That's the key to keeping you from getting your posts or videos that you do from getting them knocked off either Facebook or knocked off of YouTube. So I have several videos up on YouTube. All right. This one here I did generically for our Synergy family. I also have that branded to me on my channel. Plus I have another video up there that talks about vaccine effectiveness and showing how ineffective vaccines today are with the variants that have occurred. Now, because I use and back up with actual printed scientific studies, I haven't had any pushback from YouTube or any of the platforms like Facebook with regards to the information that I share. So if you're going to do a social media campaign, there's a couple things that you could do with regards to creating interest. New study shows how vitamin D reduces COVID-19 rates by 80%. And then you could share the conclusion or go up here. You can share the results of that study. Again, you could do a whole series on a week. You could put this together over a weekend where you have 5 posts that you're going to put up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and help people understand the importance of looking at their vitamin D levels with regards to their immune system, with regards to helping to decrease the probability of them getting the COVID-19 virus. And again, when it comes to how much should a person be taking with regards to the COVID-19 virus, you can again go to one of the most respected health organizations here in the United States, the Cleveland Clinic. According to the Cleveland Clinic, when you look at what their recommendation is versus what the US government recommends for people who are from 9 to 70, all right? So if you're 9 to 70 years of age, it's 600 international units on a daily basis. That's what the government tells you you should take. And if you're over 70, then they boost that to 800. As you can see from the Cleveland Clinic, they recommend 4,000 international units on a daily basis. And so you can help people understand that if you're going to really robustly work in getting your vitamin D levels into the normal range and maintaining the normal range, you want to be taking 4,000 international units on a daily basis. Now, again, I'm not going to give you social posts and what to do. I just want to give you information so that you can shape your social posts in a way that will be effective in helping people to understand what they need to do to be able to increase and maintain normal vitamin D levels within their body, and how important that vitamin D level being normal is to their overall health. Now, when we come to products from Synergy Worldwide, where they begin to ask you, well, what do you do? Or you can share something. If you're interested, I'll share with you what I do on a daily basis to make sure that I'm getting 4,000 international units of vitamin D3 to help boost my immune system and improve my cardiovascular health. So you could do that as a question. And then people can call you, DM you, text you, however. So in Synergy Worldwide, we've got 3 outstanding products that have vitamin D3 as part of that product. ProArginine Plus, if you look at the ingredient list, for whatever reason, the United States a couple years ago decided to change the vitamin D levels from international units to micrograms. So 40 micrograms of vitamin D3 is in the current ProArginine Plus. What does that convert to in terms of international units? 1,600. So if you take 2 scoops of ProArginine Plus on a daily basis, you're getting 3,200 IUs of vitamin D3, not quite 4,000. Well, Synergy Worldwide has what I think one of the most effective vitamin D3 supplements in the marketplace, and one of the most cost-effective ways for a person to increase their vitamin D levels. As you can see, the vitamin D3 supplement from Synergy Worldwide is $18 a bottle, and every tablet has 62.5 micrograms of vitamin D3, which is the equivalent of 2,500 international units of vitamin D3. So if I was just a ProArginine Plus user who does 1 scoop on a daily basis at 1,600, then in the evening, I could take a vitamin D3 supplement with my dinner and I would get 2,500. So that would give me 4,100 IUs of vitamin D3, well within what the Cleveland Clinic recommends. Or if I'm not using ProArginine Plus or the other product I'll show you in just a second, I could do 2 vitamin D3 supplements, 1 in the morning, one at dinner time, and be able to, for 24 cents a day, be able to take in 5,000 international units in a chewable form that is more effective in getting it into your system than a tablet, and be able to be extremely cost effective. And if you decide that you're going to use the new Synergy website for product ordering, you can see that a person could go on a monthly auto ship, a Subscribe and Thrive program, and get it for $16.20 with free shipping. When you look at that, you're looking at 11 cents a tablet. So for 22 cents. So again, you could do a post on a social media. I can show you how for 25 cents a day, you could make a huge difference in your immune system. And you could create a question or a post, and you build that out over a couple days period. So again, here's a great way for a person, for the whole family, because there's 150 tablets. If a person's taking 2 a day, that's 75 days. So for a person, that would be a little over 2 months. If you got a husband and wife, that would be then, they would go through a bottle basically on a monthly basis. Children can use this. So this is a great program for helping individuals, husband and wife, significant other, whole families to be able to take a positive step in helping to maintain normal vitamin D levels and all the health benefits that come from that. And then the final product that we have in Synergy Worldwide is the Immune Booster. So each stick of the Immune Booster has 1,000 international units of vitamin D3. So again, there's so many different ways that you can get your 4,000 units based upon what you're doing. Maybe you're doing 1 packet of Pro-Arginine with 1 packet of Immune Booster that gives you 2,600 international units. Then there's supplement with 1 tablet of the chewable vitamin D3. Now you're at 5,100 international units. You know, if you look at the Vitamin D Council, you know, they're much more aggressive than the Cleveland Clinic. They talk about 10,000 international units on a vitamin on a daily basis. So again, well within the guidelines of respected organizations of what you need to do on a daily basis to get the proper level of vitamin D supplement into your system so that you can make sure that you maintain normal vitamin D levels in your bloodstream. So with that said, do I have any questions from anyone with regards to the information I've shared with you today? Giving you a lot of information. Again, this is recorded. Recording will go out on Tuesday, and I'll give you additional links to these other 2 pieces that are new in today's presentation. Any questions before we say goodbye?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Good morning. Hello,
Yes.
my name's Andrea. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can, Andrea.
Hello. I've been quietly lurking in Kansas, but I've been familiar with Arginine for about a decade and take it, and meaning Pro-Arginine, and I'm a big fan. I just had a quick question, and it might not be quick or relevant, but with the D3 and the clotting, one of my concerns has been with the spiked protein nature of the virus and the vaccine. Is there anything you can speak to on that, or should I kind of leave that alone?
I'm not well enough versed to be able to talk in that area. So, you know, the only thing I can, if we go back to, again, I'll make available this information. But when you look at this, I'm not sure if the spike protein has a lot to do with the cytokine storm that's created. But again,
Okay.
you're looking at damage to the endothelium, which allows these things to occur because the endothelium now becomes unregulated in its function. So again, there's a lot in this whole area. And again, from an overall observation, what's nice about these studies that have been done is it definitely shows how important normal vitamin D levels are to reducing our risk for all forms of disease, not just COVID-19, but all forms of disease. Because again, the vitamin D helps to improve the efficiency of the immune system to communicate within itself and communicate between the parts of the immune system. So again, the immune system does the job that it was created to do, which is recognize things that don't belong in your body and then begin to destroy those things so that they don't end up destroying you.
Yes,
So,
and thank you for that. And I just want to thank you for all of this fantastically laid out, clear information, because there's so much out there. So thank you.
oh yeah,
But please go ahead. I didn't interrupt.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Anyone else before we say goodbye?
Yes, and Timothy here.
Hey, Timothy.
Your last presentation, your last slide before questions, you mentioned Pro-Arginine booster and 1 tab together, or you can take them during the day to get the same effectiveness.
Sure. So my suggestion would be that if you're going to use the vitamin D3 supplement, you do that separately. All right. So that you take your if you're taking your Pro-Arginine in the morning, then at dinner time, just before dinner, chew up your vitamin D3 supplement in your mouth and then have dinner.
Okay, go up one more to the box. Box, no, the booster. Yes, you mentioned 1, 1, and 1.
Yeah, some people take their 1 packet of immune booster with 1 packet of Pro-Arginine because they want that 2 times boost that the products, when they combine those 2 products together, gives them. So again, my suggestion is if you're using the immune booster and you're doing Pro-Arginine, then do the 1 packet of Pro-Arginine with the 1 packet of immune booster. That'll give you 2,600 of international units of vitamin D3. And if you're doing that in the morning, then take your chewable tablet either at lunchtime or at dinner time, just before you eat. And that way you'll get better total absorption of your vitamin D over the day rather than doing all of it at one time.
I got that, but the problem that I'm saying there is that when you take the packet of Pro-Arginine and the packet of immune booster, it's recommended that you go up with the value of water or juice or whatever you're using in.
No.
You go from 8-10 ounces up to like 16 ounces.
No. I don't know I don't know who told you that, but you don't need to do that. You can use 8 to 10 ounces of water and then put both the packets in the 8 to 10 ounces of water. You don't need to double your water intake.
Okay. I would have the opinion that that's what's on the box, but I got to read the box.
I don't think so. If it is, I've never seen it. And maybe I haven't paid attention to it, but the box may tell you to mix it with 8 to 10 ounces of water, and the other box tells you the same thing. But again, you don't need to increase the water content for that to be effective. You can stay at 8 to 10 ounces of water and put both packets into that 8 to 10 ounces, and it's just as effective.
I got that, Dan, and that's the real reason why I asked, because that's a lot of this stuff to drink in the morning or in the afternoon.
Sure.
So
Makes you go to the bathroom a lot.
so that's the real reason why I asked. I'll look at the box again, and then I can easily adjust my thinking to 8-10 ounces of water, period.
Yeah. I would do the 10 ounces of water, 1 packet of each. Good. I'm glad that helped clear it up for you.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. All right. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Thank you, Dan. This was great.
You're welcome, Bob.
Yes, it is. Thank you again, you guys, for letting me hop on, and good luck, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you
you
for being part of it.
All right, guys, take care. Talk to you
Bye-bye
all
now.
on Monday.
Have a great day.